Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Dr. Mark Kleisner. I go by Mark, and I'm very much looking forward to the opportunity to connect with our community, with our neighbors. In some respects, we're going to start out with a blank slate. This is our first public meeting. We can start to hear what the community is looking for, things they'd like to see happen at the St. Joe's space. We have a couple plans, but quite frankly, right now, the slate is wide open, and we're excited to hear about what your interests and desires are. So we've started some conversations. We're just getting the ball rolling, and I'm thrilled to have an opportunity to interact with you. So what I'd like to do is I have just a very brief introduction that I'd like to talk about West 40. All the time I get people they'll say, what is a West 40? What is that? I don't know what that means. So I'd like to talk a little bit about that. We have a video that we're going to show that actually is inside the building. And I feel apologetic, but I can't really take ownership of it. We wanted to do this at St. Joe's. We've had a lot of vandalism and damage lately, and we felt like it wasn't really safe to go visit there now. You'll see some of that in the video. But we're going to be moving pretty quickly. We've got construction people working there. Well, they're probably done for today, but they're working there already. And I'll share a little bit about that too. We hope to do these at least monthly. And so if that's the opportunity, then perhaps next month we'll actually be on site and you'll be able to be in the building. So we have a video so you can see a little bit inside. Then I'm going to talk about what we believe is what the programs are going to look like, the few things that have already been decided, so you kind of know what's coming. And then we have another very, very short video that we'll share. And then we have plenty of time for question and answer. And we will stay as long as you like. You'll probably have new questions afterwards. So we've got things like our business cards and things you could take along if you want to email or call at a later date. So we wanted to have this to be an ongoing dialogue, and I hope that becomes clear as we go. We have a few people that are also on Zoom, which is great. That's a good thing about the fact it didn't work out at St. Joe's. We can offer a hybrid tonight, so that's not a bad thing. So let me start with, what is a West 40? In Illinois, I'm not going to give the whole history, but offices like this one were established during the Civil War. So all the way back in the 1860s, 1865, Illinois started county offices of education. And the best way to describe that is it looks sort of like this: the local school district, and then us, and then the State Board of Education. So we're an intermediate between the State Board of Education and the local school districts. In this case, for those of you who are Westchester folks, 92.5 and Proviso are both within the West 40 region. So I am the official that oversees those districts. There are a total of 41, the 38 school districts, and there are 3 special ed co-ops. We're about 100,000 students in West 40. So if you kind of draw a map in your head, out the Kennedy to O'Hare, from O'Hare, take 294 south, and take the Stevenson back up, that trapezoid is the West 40 region, roughly. So my office oversees 152 schools, those 41 entities that I mentioned. We're about 100,000 students, roughly 7,000 teachers. So that's the whole region. If you're interested, there's a handout here that you can pick up later if you didn't get one. It has the map and it has some things about us. So if you're a paper person, you're welcome to take that. West40.org is our website. So what do we do in that intermediate? West 40 is one of 38 offices across the state, and we have 3 roles. One role is that we are the compliance entity. So our teams go into every school, all those 152 schools, and we inspect them for health, life, safety inspections. Every year, every room, every door, That's part of what we do. Also in that compliance wing is that we monitor things like policy, school code, legal compliance. So one task is all around compliance. Now, what you'll hear as you get to know us is we always describe ourselves as different. Most ROEs, if you were to go to Galena or to Decatur or anywhere around the state, most ROEs look very much like the DMV. You walk in, you pay your money, you get your certificate, you walk back out. There's probably a big counter right at the front when you walk in. That's because for a long time we have been this government entity that sits in the middle and focuses on things like compliance. Now, what you'll find with West40 is a very different vibe. We don't come in with a checklist when we go through schools and check off this extension cord is not in compliance or whatever that may be. Our team goes in and says, how do we help kids stay safe? Our senior director of Comprehensive Educational Services, Steve, says, when I walk in the door, the first thing I do is shake hands with the principal and I figure out whether I would want my own children or grandchildren to go to this school. Is this the safe place for them? So whether that's compliance like policy or whether it's compliance like extension cords, that's that division. The second division of what we do is professional learning. And so when you were growing up and you heard the adults talking about Teacher Institute Day or my teacher's going to a workshop, that's kind of the old model of professional learning and is still common in a lot of places around the state. Our version of professional learning in West40 is that we go out into the districts and work with the teachers. We work with the districts, the schools, to help them get better at what they're doing. Post-pandemic, to be really honest, there's a lot of demand for things like social emotional learning, mental health of students. We're doing a lot of work with our districts. That team is about 15 people now that are working all throughout the district, or all throughout the region. We have 2 of them that are specifically working with 92.5 on some social emotional learning, and another one that's working with provisos. So right in the schools in your backyard, we're providing professional learning in an ongoing basis within the districts. So that's our second strand. The third strand is working with students who have challenges. Sometimes people call them at risk. Many of my staff like to say that these are children of promise. They're not necessarily at risk, but they're children of promise, and how can we help their experience be better and help them be more successful? That takes a lot of different versions in West40. If you're interested, we have some great handouts about a continuum of services that we do with students, all the way from truancy kind of work. What are the barriers that are keeping that child from getting to school? All the way up to alternative schools. And we operate 2 of those. Alternative schools for students who have a number of different challenges, and how can we help them? Maybe it would be best to say to change their trajectory. How can we help them make better choices? We frequently say, or they say, I'm not a bad kid, I just made a really bad choice. So where do I go from here? Now, in that continuum, if you go back to the big trapezoid I drew, that continuum for us is about 3,000 students across the region. At Westchester Middle School, we have a full-time advocate who is a mental health specialist, a social worker, that actually works in the school, does not teach, but is just there to help students who are struggling. So those programs map out across the whole region, and they, like I said, that's about 3,000 kids. So on the light end, those are like truancy or students that are having trouble getting to school. On the deeper end, we run a school in Maywood, and we call that a regional safe school. And I love that name because it's what we're about. We are all about providing opportunities for kids and keeping them safe. That program this year was just under 60 students. They attended middle school through high school at Lexington Elementary School. We bought that a year ago, remodeled the school. You'll get a chance to see a little bit of that in a minute. We remodeled the school and made it a really wonderful, respectful place for kids. So how that all leads up to where we are tonight is that through a number of conversations, the governor's office asked if they could come visit the Lexington program. And the governor did a press release. We can share those links with you. The governor came with a bunch of dignitaries, and he launched a new initiative. He's calling it the Blueprint for Transformation of Mental Health in Illinois. That blueprint, the press conference was held in our school, and what the governor told me was, we wanted to come here because of the school that you're running in Lexington is exactly how we need to be treating kids. It needs to be a model for other places. So we're in the middle of that conversation, and Dr. Weiner, she's in charge of the Department of Human Services. She approached me and talked to some of the members of our team and said, you know, we would really love to build a model program that would be residential in nature, use all the things that you're talking about in terms of serving kids and their families. We'd love to do that and make it a model where kids could change their trajectory, support the families, and that model would be the model for the state of Illinois and probably the model for the country. Well, we were very honored to even be part of the conversation, and it just so happened that at the same time, just within weeks, the Christian brothers who owned St. Joe's contacted us and said, we're selling the property. We knew you were interested a couple years ago. Are you still interested? Could we make that work? Well, the beauty of the St. Joe's property is it has a convent with 41 small apartments, which could potentially become residential settings for kids. So in a place that honors, respects, values, cherishes servicing kids in a really respectful way, we now have an opportunity to build something at St. Joe's. So you get a little bit of how ROEs work, Regional Offices of Education, Intermediate Service Centers like ours, how that works. We do those three things. The one that is our biggest adventure is keeping kids safe and helping them succeed while serving their families. And we believe that that's all that has led to our purchase of St. Joe's and will be a portion of what we're going to develop moving forward. So that's the foundation, and I'd love for you to watch this short video specifically about St. Joe's.
Hi, I'm Chris Coffey, and I'm on the West40 communications team. We're beyond excited about what the future holds for St. Joseph High School here in Westchester. West40 is a government entity that works as an intermediary between the state of Illinois and dozens of school districts in West Cook County, and we recently purchased St. Joseph High School. Our plan is to renovate the school and turn it into a state-of-the-art learning facility, and we want to be a good neighbor. So let's take a tour inside to see the school as it is now, and we can tell you what we envision for the future. St. Joseph is the ideal choice for West40 to serve students, build strong community connections, and support the governor's commitment to providing education services to youth in need. We foresee about 40 students learning and living here at any given time, and we hope the school is up and running by March of 2024. Dr. Mark Kleisner is West40's executive director.
The governor shared with the state his blueprint for transformation around mental health services, and he sees that as a collaboration of many state agencies, and we've come alongside and said we have the perfect location to provide a safe, respectful, state-of-the-art learning environment for students who have been marginalized for a lot of different reasons.
Keys to this plan include St. Joseph's abundance of classrooms, meeting spaces, a working kitchen, and living quarters. St. Joseph closed in 2021, and it remains mostly in good shape, but we are doing renovation work that includes asbestos abatement, roof repairs, and new windows. We also removed walls to create a larger space in the front of the school, while the refurbished library will receive new lights, new walls, a new floor, and new paint. In case you've been wondering what's happened inside the school since it closed 2 years ago, well, this is some of it. Lots of graffiti in the halls and here in the gymnasium. But don't worry, it will get fixed and we'll clean it up. Replacing all of the broken windows is also a top priority. Meanwhile, we've installed new exterior lights, and in the future there will be round-the-clock staff on site. On the north end of the property, the original St. Joseph has extensive damage, and we plan to replace it with green space, which could be used by the public and the park district.
So we imagine the space, the huge outdoor space with walking paths, perhaps an outdoor theater, outdoor classrooms, but then internal space for production, coursework, being able to work well with the community. So within a year from now, will be something ready to give back to the community and to partner with our neighbors and those in the surrounding area.
The entire operation will be funded by the state of Illinois. Meanwhile, there's still a lot of work to do, and West 40 will keep you updated as we transform St. Joseph into a new state-of-the-art learning facility. Thank you.
So that gives you a little glimpse into what's there. So, as I promised, the next step is a little bit of what I know to be true in terms of programming. Right now, we have abated the library and the office, and we hope to move in September to those two spaces only. The office space will be the core where we're designing our school. So it will look very much like a principal's office, and there's a reception area that will welcome people in as we're planning. We don't see the school, the video said up and running by the spring of 24. That will be a small portion of the space, and I'll get to that in a minute. So we'll have an office space that'll be ready by September. Right across the hall is an area that used to be the library, and we've set that aside as a community center, a space. We have several staff members here at West 40 that are focused on community engagement. So it's things like interacting with the community. Sometimes it's food drives. I think that team is working on us getting in the 4th of July parade. It's connecting with our community. And we feel like those are the two heartbeat pieces that need to be there first. So we see those two opening in September as we're planning the rest of the facility, the grounds, the whole piece. So as the video said, the north end is a disaster. It was just let go, and it needs to be demolished. So the original St. Joe's on the north end, and next to it, they've called it the Brothers House. It was where the brothers who worked in the school lived. Those two are coming down. Our plan is that that'll be part of a green space plan on the north end. So that's just adjacent to the backyard of the intermediate school. We see that coming down in the fall. So those will be all gone before winter. Then let's go back to the south building. I mentioned the first two spaces that'll be up and running by September, and I'm imagining Maria Lane is one of those folks. We're going to have things like family engagement meetings. They work with a ministerial alliance. We've done all kinds of outreach things to the community, and they'll be based right there. Now the rest of the school is 64 classrooms. There's an auditorium for 400. There's a huge gym. You saw pictures of it there. The cafeteria has a capacity of 305, and it's a full kitchen. So we see potential for all of those spaces eventually. I believe that what we'll plan, and we're working with those 4 agencies. I mentioned in the video that the governor wants us to work with 4 different agencies on renovation as well as possible services. So we see over the course of the next year building out the school part that would possibly serve up to 40 residential students. That'll be our first focus. But the rest of the building is another 60 classrooms of what could be a number of different things. And lots of ideas have popped up. We want to make sure that we're working with the village. We want to make sure we're working with the school district. Actually, several school districts have contacted me and said, is there going to be additional space there? Are we going to be able to do professional learning for teachers there? Is there going to be any additional services? And one thing that the governor's office has asked us to consider is mental health services for families and for particularly for youth, where we could do things like assessments. If a child comes into our care, can we do an evaluation of that child's mental situation, their emotional situation? Can we do that right on site? There's significant interest from Lurie's Children's Hospital, and they have a center that's called the Center for Childhood Resiliency. And we've worked with them in other projects in our Lexington program and others. We see ourselves working closely with Lurie's to possibly bring some services in. Now, those services would be available for the students who are living there, but they would have far more capacity to either help our school districts, our community, our family, and so forth. We have a number of our team members who've been doing a lot of food distribution, and they collect every kind of food you could imagine. This has a huge kitchen and industrial refrigerators and space where we could actually do some of that work too. But I want to go back to, this is just an open slate. The first two rooms, the first two spaces I talked about, that's a definite plan. Everything else is wide open. And so one of the things we want to communicate at these meetings and to our neighbors is this opportunity to learn from all of you helps us plan where we're going next. What do we do with that green space? And I've had lots and lots of ideas already come my way, which is fabulous. You know, wouldn't it be great to put a playground or maybe a walking trail or outdoor classrooms? None of that's been decided. We're launching those conversations tonight and to get a chance to talk with our neighbors and see what they need. I feel very, very strongly that I don't want to replicate or compete. So I need your help in learning what we need in Westchester. Say, you know, it would be really cool if we could do this. Someone said to me, wouldn't it be great if the children could run like a Starbucks? They could learn how to do something with business and money, and what if they could run a small business like that? Another one that came up was things like FedEx and making copies, and well, there's a million ideas of what could be. But if you think about 64 really large classrooms, a kitchen area, an auditorium, it's so easy for me to close my eyes and see students performing on a full stage in an auditorium for 400. Those are the kinds of things that make a lot of sense about shared space with the community and with the school district. So the next very short video I want to show is what we did at Lexington. We moved into Lexington a year ago, remodeled for another program, another school. That one's not residential, but it's another school that we built. And we're going to move our offices that you're sitting in now, we're moving them to the Lexington building in September. So if you wouldn't mind, thank you. So it kind of gives you a sense of, we took a space, that one had been empty for a little bit longer, but we took a space and we flipped it. We love to use the word respectful. Then when a student walks in, I don't want them to say, oh my gosh, why am I at this school? It's dark and it's dingy. We want new technology, color, and vibrance and light. In that building, we changed all the light fixtures. We took out all the internet access and redid it all. We redid the sprinkler system for fire safety. We redid the alarms. So everything in that building other than the bricks is brand new. And so our students who have had a number of different challenges around the region come to school there and they say, this is really cool. I've got a beautiful, we redid the gym floor and the kids voted on how the logos would be on the floor and they took ownership of that space. So we're very proud of that work. If we continue to do these, or if you're just on your own, if you want to take a tour of Lexington, today's not the best day because it's all hard hats, but very shortly it's going to be a respectful office space there as well. So we want people to feel really good and welcome about coming into the space, but always knowing that we're pointing toward keeping kids safe and helping kids succeed. Athy, would you help me with this? These are sketches that you can, some of them are small, but you'll be able to come up and see them as we end this evening. And Pat and Athy are two of our architects that are helping us conceptualize and dream of what this might be. When you get closer, it'll make more sense. This is a current aerial view, and that's the old St. Joe's that's coming down. So this is what it might look with green space. Here we have, we're looking at a little bit different configuration of the front door. We're going to keep a lot of questions about legacy. We're going to keep the legacy of St. Joe's. The name will stay on the front. The chapel will stay, the stained glass will stay. The front will be about the same, but we're thinking about some idea, this is just a concept for conversation, but some idea that represents safety, protection as you come in through a space like that. But the rest of the building is the same configuration. This is the office space that I was talking about, so if you want to look at it later, you can come up and see that, how the office space was and how it's going to look now. And the appearance, it's very important to me, to us at West40, that as you walk in, you see lots of open glass. We're very transparent about what we do. You would see that at Lexington. You'll see it in the designs we unfold here. So what we know for sure is this is going to happen this summer. And actually there'll be a staff of 2 or 3 that's there all the time. That will be the group that's planning the school for the following year. And then straight across the hall, this is library community room. That library is the open space where our family engagement group will be. So it's kind of like a two-edged sword or chicken and egg or something like that, where on one hand, I'd love to say, here's exactly the plan. What do you think? But it's more our nature to say, if I did that, you'd be reacting to a bunch of decisions I made. I would much rather have the architects listening and talk to all of you and say, I have an open slate. What kinds of things would you really value in that space? What would you like to see? And basically, it's not exact, but once we take out the north building, you can kind of see our school will be about 1/3 of the property. So you're talking about 20 acres of green space and 10 acres of the existing building. I personally, speaking for me, I think that kids who've been through trauma really thrive in green space. We've talked about lots of ideas, whether that's gardening, whether it's walking a dog, any kind of green space. And what we've heard just kind of incidentally as we've been interacting with folks is that we would love to have this kind of almost park environment that would be in the core of Westchester, that very little traffic, but a restful, restorative kind of place. Something that comes up frequently to me is it's going to be a school. It will be a school. And people say, okay, well, where are the buses going to go? Where's the traffic going to go? Our school is for those 40 students that live there, so there are no buses. Now, there will be traffic because we'll have staff, but nothing like what it was when it was a fully functional comprehensive high school. The 40 students will live on campus, so the traffic you would see would be in this parking lot, and that would be our staff members. So it isn't, we're going to bring it back to life, but not back to life in a loud way. We're very excited that that green space will be safe, kind of calming, quiet, restorative space. So you've been wonderful listening to me nonstop for half an hour. But this is a quick view, first glimpse, and as I said, we've only made a couple things that are definite. With that, I'd love to open it up just to questions, and I'll do my best to answer questions. A couple of my staff members can take notes if I have to get back to you or don't know the answer. We'll go from there. Yes, hi.
Do you currently have residential spaces for kids, like in other areas where they live on campus?
Yep, great question. So I hope everybody could hear. She asked if we have other residential settings. The other residential setting that West40...
Residential settings.
Yep. The other, we have one, to answer your question. And that is in Glen Ellen. It's called the Philip J. Rock Center, and it's for students who have significant challenges. They are mostly both blind and deaf. So it's a complicated system, but we are the fiscal agent and work with the state of Illinois at the Phil Rock Center. We're very, very proud of the work that they do there. And the students are from all over the state of Illinois, and they live on site 24/7. Many of them go home, maybe at breaks or sometimes for a weekend to be with their families, but they live 24/7 there. So many of those things like laundry and food and 3 meals a day and safety and all those factors come into play, just a different population of kids. Yes, hi.
Hi. How was this all, how did this come about? Was it voted with our village? Okay,
No.
so it was privately done without the community knowing?
Mm-hmm.
I find that very unfair because I live right behind there. And you're talking about the safety of kids, but what about the safety of the neighborhood?
Mm-hmm.
And do you have statistics of a school like this in areas of property value going down?
So,
Because we're worried about that big time.
Sure. And I appreciate that. It's not an uncommon question.
And the safety for us.
Yep. So there's about 3 questions there that I'd like to come back. No, it's great. I'm glad.
Upset about it.
Yep, that's exactly why we want you here. So the first question was when the idea first came about, we were looking at properties in several different communities. Where could we find a place that made sense for students to live and go to school at the same time? We were able to find, empty apartment buildings, or we were able to find empty schools, but not a combination of both. And that was really the desire that came from the governor's office, from DHS. Where could we find something like that? And when St. Joe's came to be available, and they called us, it's the perfect for this site. And the reason that it doesn't require a vote is it's very similar to if you were going to sell your house to somebody else. It's an independent seller and an independent buyer. We recognize that it's a very large property with 30 acres, and it's in a core neighborhood. So all of those factors relate, but it isn't something that's voted on in terms of the village wasn't purchasing it. It was a private seller and a private buyer. So the idea about, but I want to go to the students served because I think that's a great question. The students that I believe are most likely to come here in 12 months or 18 months are wards of the state. They're probably going to be foster kids who don't have a place to live. On any given day, DCFS has about 250 students that don't have a place to live. And so these are students who've been through all kinds of different trauma, for lack of a better term, many different versions. And the reason that we were asked to do this is because we serve a similar population in our Lexington building. In that case, the thing that's different is those students are living at home. They're not foster children. They're not without homes. They are living with their parents, but they've been through trauma in their local schools. The schools have referred them to us, and then we serve them in the Lexington building. And something I'm really proud of is we've been doing this work for 20 years, and our Safe School folks will tell you, actually it's about 25 years now, they will tell you that we have never had a fight in that building. And it's a capacity of 60 kids at any given time. And that's because we start, our core premise is around safety and mental health. So, I want to be really clear, these are kids who've had a rough go of it. They are not kids who have violent backgrounds, who are coming from incarceration or some other extreme behaviors. These are students who don't have a place to live because they're in the foster system. Now, last I heard, our target group was probably going to be middle schoolers. So we're talking about 6th, 7th, 8th graders. And part of our success in our programs like Lexington or at Phil Rock, we're in all the high schools across West 40 now, where we have social workers embedded. Part of our success is that we have a very high ratio of adults to students. So if you were to visit the Lexington school in September, there are more adults than there are students. And as the year goes on, we enroll more and more students, but it's never more than 3 students to every 1 adult. Half of the staff in Lexington are social workers, interventionists, counselors that are helping kids deal with some of those struggles, their emotional baggage. We're looking to use the exact same kind of model here. I love the question about property value. I will tell you that what we saw at Lexington, and my own experience has been, as we bring properties back to life, and they have energy and light and color and people coming and going, I think that that's value add to the community. I don't have hard statistics, but that blighted building and kids breaking in, I'm really afraid. Last week, we've now hired a full-time security company to try to keep kids out because I think it's become like a thing. And we actually have a 30-minute post on YouTube. Look, we're inside the St. Joe's. We broke in. You ought to come join us. That's not good for anybody. And so to be able to take out the blighted space, to make it more park-like, to bring the existing building back to life, I can only believe that that adds property value, that it wouldn't diminish property value. We also see the facility that I've described, even in that, if we're only talking about the school portion, I intend to hire about 50 people to work in that school portion. So it's additional jobs to the community. I mean, I think our plan is that it would be positive all around. And I don't know, I think at one time I talked to some residents who had shared that a portion has been for sale for 15 years and hasn't been sold. And some of the other things like light industry or manufacturing, some of those, there were similar concerns, like what if there's a bunch of semi-trucks? How does that affect property value? And I will admit I'm not an expert at that, but everywhere that I have done projects like this in my career, it's added value to the community, not reduced it. It's going to be far more attractive to the eye and also in terms of bringing jobs. So I don't want to diminish your concerns because I think there's probably several people that feel the same way. And there aren't really good statistics to say, but I can tell you if you want to come visit Lexington, it's total value add, and the mayor will tell you they're thrilled to have our programs be part of their neighborhood. Yes?
How do you help the children assimilate into the community, and then once they graduate out of middle school, what happens to them? Where do
Yep.
they go?
Beautiful question. So the question was, how do we help assimilate students into the community? It's a really important piece of this model. Let's say we had 40 students. I'm not going to transport 40 students to Westchester Middle School. But we have services in Westchester Middle School and about half of the middle schools across the region. So our model would be that as a student is independent enough to go back to a regular school, we would then partner them with some of our staff members at one of the other schools. So it could be that they'd be going to Hillside or Berkeley, or we have programs in several of the middle schools that are within reach. The beauty is that having our staff members on site in the public schools means that when they walk in the door, they already have a caseworker. And if they're coming for 1 hour a day or 4 hours a day or 2 days a week, however that unfolds, we have the support systems on the receiving end. And we don't want to make, we're not looking to establish a classroom setting at Westchester Middle School, but if there was a child that was ready to go back, they would go back with the support that's already there. The idea of when they graduate, that's not clear. So if they actually lived in Westchester, they would be eligible to go to West High. We have supports in West High, and it could be, but if they're not ready to make that leap, then it's our job to work with the agencies to say, how do we program for them elsewhere, here, in our schools?
They might wind up back in the foster care system.
Hopefully not. But it's a lot.
Yeah, where do
They
they
can't
go
stay
then?
at St. Joe's anymore.
So when I say probably, hopefully not, but what happens, their mindset, this is actually part of our negotiation now, is that they would like to find forever homes as quickly as possible. And it may not be in the Chicago area. But we have said that we would like a minimum commitment of at least 6 months, if not a year, because it's about helping them stabilize and helping them become independent so they are ready to move to that next level. The folks at the governor's office have said, if this model is working and we're replicating it around the state, could we then look to a high school program? And maybe we're developing that in the next couple of years so there's a natural segue. A couple of them have said, wouldn't it be great if the middle school was really intense support, like that 2-to-1 adult to kid kind of ratio, and then maybe the high school program is more like 5-to-1, so they become more independent. We certainly would be open to that idea too. I would not see us doing that all in Westchester. I see us focusing here and doing this well, and if we're involved, it may be in DuPage County, it may be in Kane County, it may be somewhere else in West 40 where somebody has a position where they'd like to, or a location where they'd like to build onto that. So all of those are ongoing questions. If the answer I get from them being DCFS, is right now a lot of these kids are sleeping under desks on couches. Some are in hospital wards because they have no place else to sleep. So we're making a bold step forward to commit to giving kids a safe place to land. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name's Eric Healy. I live here in Westchester.
Yes, Eric.
Firstly, I really want to thank you for to welcome you into the community. The fact is you're providing services that are desperately needed. Every child deserves a place. Every child deserves a place where they can find themselves and feel at least at home and comfortable. So thank you very much for making this happen. Beautiful place there at St. Joe's. I've been looking forward to something great happening there. We've all heard odd little things of industrial property. It's like, that's just so boring. This is exciting. This is genuinely exciting. but as for the property, I'm a natural areas advocate. Been proud to do that for a long, long, long time. The 2/3 of the property, yes, it's now open space, but it's about as sterile as a well-trimmed bale of hay. I mean, it's right now,
Yep.
it just, can we please, I just want to encourage you to do all you can to make it as natural as possible, using as many native plants and trees as possible. Certainly, you're going to be dealing with some landscape architects who will be saying, "Oh, I have this exotic Japanese this and that," and please, let's make it as native as possible, because that is also part of learning your place, learning about what we are right here in Illinois. We have this wonderful prairie, the largest black soil prairie east of the Mississippi. That's not terribly far from that property as well. Let's learn from that and make that just a beautiful, beautiful place. I'm very much looking forward to that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric. And it's interesting, you know, this is not a plan, this is just a concept of what that could look like. But this topic has come up within our staff. Just north, so you see the tree line here, this grass is the intermediate school. And so I've talked to Dr. Salemi from 92.5 about whether that's the auditorium or it's the green space, how could this be a shared learning space? We've talked about maybe a corner like here could be an outdoor classroom where kids could sit outside. But all of this has so much potential. I totally agree with you. So,
Put away the lawnmowers.
okay.
There was much more clever things that we could do, right?
Yep. Thank you for that. Yes, hi.
I actually have quite a few questions. I'm
Okay.
sorry. As for there's 40 children living on this entire site.
Mm-hmm. That's our plan.
And what happens if it doesn't go through zoning to have it zoned for living space?
So it's going to be an interesting conversation. I think we've had the first couple conversations with the village. The space is zoned R1, and so public schools and parochial schools are allowable under R1, and so the current ordinance doesn't specify if that's a technical school, if it's a residential school. It doesn't specify a specific kind. It only refers to parochial and to parochial and public. So right now it's kind of a question about determining whether the current zoning is sufficient. I personally believe it is, because we are a public school just like Phil Rock, and it would be a residential boarding school, but it would be a public school. It's fully funded by the state of Illinois, and it's funded by, it's called the evidence-based funding model in Illinois. We are funded exactly the same way as 92.5 or Proviso. So our funding comes through the state of Illinois based on the fact that we're a public school. So I will tell you that in talking to the village, they've been very receptive to sit down and talk about it. I don't think that we've finished that discussion yet. That's our position, is that we are a public school and we just happen to be a public boarding school. And so we started the conversations. We believe that we have over a year before kids would be there, and we have to translate that through conversations. So we haven't really arrived, but I think the conversations are good, and I think we have an opportunity to talk it through.
Other questions I have is what type of security will be on site?
So there,
Is the physical security and of electronic security?
Yep. So we don't have a full plan for that yet. I believe tomorrow, Dr. Tai, tomorrow we're installing new cameras, something like 20 motion detectors that all come into a head end, so that even though the building's empty, We have a way to monitor the security. It'll have a typical kind of school front at the main door with a receptionist. Our other programs do not have SROs and armed security, but there'll be 24/7 staff available all night long, all day long. The students will be, when you usually do schools, you think about protecting the students inside from people coming from the outside. And so our architects are part of that. We've started with security. Same thing at Lexington. We have, the doors are locked at all times. They have to be buzzed in, security cards to get in. So the students will be safe. I think some people are likely to ask, well, are any of these students dangerous to get out of school, and should we be concerned about that? I'm going to tell you that the students that I believe are coming to us are no more dangerous than any other middle school students that you have. These are students who've had a really rough life, and they don't have a family, and they're on their own. So the other thing that happens in our Lexington school, we've never had metal detectors. We've never wanted the kids when they come in. That's a school of 60. And our staff would tell you that they are safest because of the love and the relationship that they feel in our school. So the other part of that, if you visited Lexington when there were students available, you would see that there's a couple adults in every room. And so the students are never alone. It isn't like hundreds of kids in the hallway. It's like students, it's students who have struggles but are building relationships with therapeutic staff. So the ratios are a lot of that issue. And back to the fact that we've been really successful. I always remember the first time I toured the school when I came here 9 years ago. I said, well, most schools like this have metal detectors, and most schools have wands. And they said, you know what? Every day when this child gets off the bus or out of their cab, we assess them with eye contact and a handshake. And we know our kids so well. If they're starting off with a rough start, we don't go right to algebra. We go have a granola bar and some juice and start our day processing what baggage we're bringing in. So that therapeutic kind of approach has been very successful for us. And we feel that that's probably one of the keys why we're being asked to do this kind of program. Yeah.
I'm sorry, like I said, I have a bunch of questions. So I know it had stated on the website the kids that are into the school have to be expelled so many times, have to be arrested and all of this stuff. So it kind of gave the village a little scare of people who've seen that. So I know there's some residents that are worried about what type of children are going to be at this school. Mm-hmm. Is it going to be that type of children, or is it going to be, here I have it here, I'm sorry.
Thank you. No, I know what you're talking about, because the Safe School at Lexington, Safe School, if you go into the school code and you look at the definition of safe school, that they were constituted in 1996. And to be eligible to attend the school in Lexington, they have to either be eligible for expulsion or multiple suspensions. Now that's a day program where kids live at home. That's not the program we're talking about. These are foster kids. These are not kids who have been incarcerated.
Okay.
Right.
That was a because the other one was arrested by the police, so these are strictly foster children that will be there living on site, waiting to be adopted or fostered, will be living there.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry, I have a few more questions. I'm sorry. I know there were questions regarding what's your long-term plans for this site? It's 40 children on this huge site. Is there your long-term plans of developing further out or
No.
adding more children?
Nope.
Okay. And then
Just to add to that, so in terms of our plan is to do something with all of that green space. So these 20 acres, how could we use these almost in a therapeutic way, which would be good for the whole community as well as our kids. We do not foresee adding any additional space except At one point, I thought it might be helpful. We've got this long access road, and we thought that perhaps it would be helpful to talk to the village and say, would it be helpful for you guys? Is there any kind of barn or facilities space that you would feel useful, because it is a huge space? And so we thought, as a way to give back to the community, we could build a facilities barn or some, I'm not doing a good job with terminology, but that box there, I asked our architects to put the box in, as we would be willing to do something like this as a community connection. We've had several people say, well, would you do something like a playground? Would you build out, could you add a playground to the space? Because that might be good for the community. We don't have plans, but we would, as far as I can see, we're not planning on any additional building space.
And will there be a fence around the perimeter of it, backing up to the houses?
We do not have a plan for that now. I mean, it certainly could be something we talk about. Many of these houses have fences of their own. We haven't added that to the plan, but certainly could be. But no, it's not part of the plan yet.
And I'm sorry, my last question. I
Okay.
know it stated that you will partner with the Park District and the school to use the facility. Would that be during school hours, during after-school hours?
Great question. So the question is,
And I'm sorry, and would they be interacting with the children that live on site?
not much. I answer that quickly because I feel compelled to protect the students who are in my care. It's kind of like on my watch. However, if you have 40 students living here and you have an auditorium that seats 400 over here, I think there's an awful lot of potential. We had somebody contact us that would like to do a dance club. I think it's called Chance to Dance. Could we use your gym? And well, we don't have any plans yet, but there are a lot of places, a lot of this space that won't be used. And so actually yesterday, Dr. Tai had a chance to talk to a couple of the people from the Park District, and we're having two different conversations, which I think is very healthy. Would the Park District like to use outdoor space, or are they looking for indoor space? Are they looking for gymnastics class, or are they looking for, baseball outside? And those are two separate conversations, and we've just started. But I think there's a lot of this building, even if you're familiar with the actual campus, there are 4 hallways. There could be an awful lot of connections to community here that would be school-like programs. You could have arts and crafts. You could, yes, exactly. And I also, I've thought about this idea of Lurie's coming. There's a lot of space that's wide open. So I would love to talk to our green friends, Eric back there, and talk about the outdoor space. I'd love to talk with the Park District about that space. If the Park District's looking for indoor space, maybe after-school programs, weekends, evenings, things like that, there are times when those spaces would be available. By and large, our plan is that the students will live here in the convent, and that this would be their classrooms with additional associated services in any one of those wings. There's a lot of flexibility, and we'll look to the Park District to help us hear what they would like to see happen, what could happen in that space.
I'm sorry, one last, another one.
Sure.
So I guess I'm just a little, I'm a little, this is a huge space for 40 children.
Mhm.
Why this huge space for that amount of children? And I'm sorry, just to clarify, and it's middle school children, ages,
Something like 12 to 15.
okay.
Boys and girls.
Boys and-
That's not been determined.
okay.
There are different facilities. One that I know that's in Chicago has a boys' floor, then a girls' floor, then a boys' floor. When we've talked to DCFS, they haven't identified who that would be.
When do those decisions get made
Other
then?
people have questions. Yes.
Okay, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
yep. So,
Okay.
so let me go back one last, and I'll get, And like I said, my cards are here. I'd love to sit down. If you want to sit down one-to-one, that's great too. So it's a great question that this doesn't make sense if it's only for 40 kids. However, the 40 students that we're hoping to serve would benefit from this kind of space. It's therapeutic kind of space. And so the same way that we have a lot of adults and few kids, we also, if you were to visit Lexington, we have lots of classrooms. And we sometimes will just say, hey, Eric, let's go talk about that. Looks like you're having a bad day. And so we've created extra space because it's very, very therapeutic in dealing with kids who've been through trauma. So I don't want to build in, I don't want to crowd. The beauty here is that we have hundreds of ideas of how we could use the 64 rooms to their benefit, but then it immediately spills over to the community and other services available to the community. So we like that idea of shared possibilities. So that's the best answer I can do.
Thank you.
Yes.
So I actually have a question for the architects.
Okay.
And living as close as we do, especially the people that are butt up against it. Right
Sure.
behind, okay? When you demolish that disaster back there,
Yep.
okay, let me just tell you the animals that are going to come out of there, mice and everything else, and we're going to be exposed to all of that. I mean, already we have coyotes, we have foxes. I mean, I'm concerned that mice. If there's mice, I'm going to demolish in my building because I don't want them also in my house.
Right.
But it's going to affect us. That grass is like taller than me. I'm 5'3". Okay.
Yep.
I've walked back there. I've seen it, and it's pretty nasty. With broken out windows, as you said,
Mhm.
But you've got to think about that. Where is all that going to go? How are you going to contain that
Yep.
for the rest of us?
So I have a couple answers, and you guys can jump in too. So in my experience in the past, particularly in Cook County is pretty tight on all this. When we did the asbestos abatement in the office area, we got a permit from Cook County as well as from the school side. So we had double permitting to do asbestos abatement. The company seals everything in. So before they demo it, they're going to pull all the asbestos out first. And that's a lot of money. That's a lot of time, and they do it very, very carefully. Then they test the air quality on a regular basis before they start demo. And then I can't speak for the animals. I have seen the coyote, by the way, the other day. He was up by the red sign. But the demolition process is pretty highly regulated, and we try to be, in general, people try to be careful. A couple of years ago, whenever somebody says demolition, I think about that smokestack that fell in the city, and oh my gosh, just unbelievable. Now, the good news for us is that everybody thinks that, so how do we plan to not make that happen? The other thing, in terms of the animals, I'm sure you're right. We're in the north building almost on a daily basis. We've been boarding things up. We've been inspecting it just because it's a liability to me, and I don't want anybody hurt. So our team goes by each day, and they're in the building. I haven't had reports of rodents yet, but I'm sure you're right.
There's one. Like you say, where there's Mickey, there's Minnie.
You bet. I hear you. I hear you. So I don't know, Pat or Athy, if you want to add to. Okay.
Sure. Thank you, Mark. Just something to add is obviously as the demolition occurs, we have multiple permits for asbestos, but as well as for the demolition, both for the school side as well as from the county side, which puts very strict regulations in from IEPA, the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency as well. So all of those safety measures, as well as being sensitive to the surroundings, knowing that it's in a residential neighborhood, obviously will be met. The rodents, as far as that, it's a balance, right? You're going to have nature and the creatures that live in nature, but when you have abandoned buildings, they tend to attract a different kind of
When you speak of
vermin
nature,
and
that's because the Christian Brothers neglected. Okay, mice are everywhere. There's feces everywhere. Whoever's cleaning it, God bless them. But the fact is, who's gonna pay for our exterminators when these things come in? What's gonna happen? Because it's gonna happen. You know, I mean, if you look in the city, okay, watch the news, look in the city, when they showed the one place being demolished, the amount of rats that came out, I had nightmares for months. Okay, so the people that are literally right behind it are gonna be the first ones hit, right?
I got a couple cats.
Yes.
So, what I can't understand is how the village, the government zoned is allowing you guys to have all that property for 40 people. Where is all that money? I mean, who's paying for all this?
I'm not sure.
I mean, okay, so you had to buy the property. Okay, so where's all the funding for only 40 kids? To me, it doesn't make sense on a property that large that could have brought our village a ton of money if we would have built beautiful townhomes, beautiful condos, brought more value. This is not value to us, really. I mean, it's gonna be a lot of wasted space.
It could be value to trade, green trade.
I just
green
don't understand
industry,
the
you
property. I don't understand that type of property.
Yeah. So, yeah, let me,
But I'm sure our tax money is
My
going
mother-in-law
towards
lives
it.
probably
Of course
right
it
behind
is.
the Christian Brothers' old home right now. She's gonna be in the same boat as you. Personally, as a teacher, I'm very excited about what West 40 brings to the community.
Well-
As a child, as a teacher for 33 years, I'm very excited.
My father was a
Okay,
teacher
but
35
for
years
40,
too.
for 40 kids, that's fine. You're giving them a chance. He's saying that he's allowing the community to use the other space, which is really exciting. But it really doesn't matter what I think or you think. It was a private sale.
Which I don't think was fair.
But it has to
so, yeah, excuse me, yeah. I'll come to you in just a sec. Okay.
And the way the tax dollars work, if I'm wrong, this is a conglomeration of 40 school districts, and part of our tax dollars will always go to the library district, the park district.
Yes.
So our tax dollars that we're already paying for goes to the school district, which is run by a portion of the state of Illinois. We will make this quick, concise, and quick. So every time you purchase something, this is 40 different agencies, right, of schools going into this, correct?
Even more,
And it's
actually,
probably
yeah.
been allocated right through grants from the federal government and the state of Illinois.
So-
Yes or no?
Yes,
Thank you.
Great.
yes.
So sadly, our taxes always go up because everything goes up in value. I don't foresee our taxes going up
They
huge.
did go up, $1,000.
Everything goes up,
$1,000 this year though.
right? And
Yeah.
for
You
where
think that's-
where did that $1,000 go? Was it just to the schools or was it over the board?
Our kids can't go.
So I'm all for this because this just isn't a Westchester project. This is a 40 community project. And for the riffraff that has terrorized the old St. Joe's and the new St. Joe's, I think I'd be more than happy with these kids coming in than what our current.
Exactly. That wasn't my question. My question was what you're gonna do with the animals.
Right.
I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to be honest. I mean, if
Yep.
we start getting rodents, our property values are going to decrease. So if you guys can contain it, that's wonderful. But I don't know how you're going to do it.
If you balance nature out, you have to balance the food web at the end of the day. So like, if you have too many of one thing, you don't have the predator. You don't have, you know, so like, we need to balance the ecology of that area, which is what Eric mentioned, so.
I'll come.
Marcia was addressing her question about the rodents, and she didn't finish.
Uh-huh.
So what is the
Yeah.
plan to address that problem if it starts affecting the property owners, which it will? she didn't finish her answer. She talked about, you know, your permits for asbestos. That has nothing to do with what we're concerned about right now.
Right,
We're concerned
right.
about the outside rodents, so she didn't finish answering that question.
Yeah, I think, and you can jump in too. So we didn't fully demolish our Lexington. We did a lot of renovation, but it had been open. It had been closed for 8 years when we took it over, and so we immediately had exterminators be part of our plan as we're undoing, and we tried to contain the perimeter. It's a smaller project than we're talking here, admittedly, and I think one of the challenges is that we talked about the fox and the coyote, and there are a lot of things that are there because it's been neglected for years and years. We can attempt and do our best to contain the space as much as we can. I think we've got a good relationship with exterminators who've already been in the current building because we're opening and closing doors and things like that. I can only promise to make our best attempt, and I think it's wise that we're talking about it because I'm sure it will happen. We see that when we do demolition, and there's no way to stop it.
But
We
it's
get
the
the rodents
outside
in our
rodents.
house, can you help us? 'Cause I don't like rats, and I don't, the coyote walk past my house every day, and he scares me. So when he leaves St. Joe's, and he comes over to our block on me, you make sure that we're taking care of it.
That's the question, though.
It's outside.
And I'm not talking about the coyotes, I'm talking about the rats.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cut down.
As the best neighbors, I can't guarantee you that I can fully stop, but I can promise you and guarantee that we'll make our very best effort as we're abating and as we're demolishing beyond permits. The permits would not require that I hire exterminators, but as good neighbors, that's what we did in Maywood. That's what we would intend to do here to help as much as we can. But I know I can't promise for something that's been abandoned for so long. It is a mess, and we believe that tearing that down and creating a park-like area will certainly be better as a community. You'll have something to celebrate rather than, well, I live in the city, so the whole rat thing gets me to the heebie-jeebies too. I'm right with you. Yes.
So you want to create a park that is mixed use for the residents that live there, plus the community to come and enjoy. But you also said you wanted to keep the residents safe. So are you building up a fence? If you build up a fence to keep the residents inside and safe, then it keeps the community out?
I'm
So I'm a
thrilled.
little confused
Yeah.
with that. I'd rather not have a fence, but then I'm worrying about, then the children can never go outside and play because your fear is they might leave?
No, I'm thrilled that you asked the question. What I meant to say is this facility will be very secure. So keeping the kids safe at night, for your own kids, you tuck them in and you make sure the front doors, that's what we do.
Okay.
And so we actually have larger staffs than are required anywhere else. We do that so that we can keep kids safe. We have multiple people available to kids. We have them nearby. So this will be a very safe space. I meant here, not here. I see it's kind of interesting, these roads, Dorchester and I forget the other one, the ones that come in. It's interesting that was part of the design at one point, but we want to feel open and welcoming. The first demolition you saw in the video, we took all the walls out of the first reception area, and we're going to put glass in that says, come here, welcome. We're St. Joe's, and we'd love for you to come in. So, yes, security of our students will be within the dwelling in the school to make sure they're safe. We may want to partition some things here so we have additional security in the building at night. But I want this to feel very open to the community in general. I saw another hand. Yes.
Welcome to the community. I'd like
Oh,
to
thank you.
welcome you to the community.
Thank you.
I was a little concerned, and All I'm gonna ask of you as a Westchester resident, to keep the communication open with the village and with the residents.
Yep, yep,
It's a great town, I love it, it's safe.
yep,
I'd like to keep it safe. We have a nice diversion of people here. That's why I live here.
yep,
The diversity, I love it. And I'd like to keep it that way.
yep, absolutely. Thank you for that. I don't know if he's still on Zoom, but the superintendent of the school district and I have had a couple of conversations, and here's the plan, Phil. What do you think? And he's like, similar. Welcome. Come. Let us know what you're doing. Let's plan together.
Yes,
Let's see how this unfolds. And there's potential since the intermediate school's
I'm
there.
still here, Mark.
Oh, hi, Phil. Did you want to say anything?
Hi, everybody. Yep. Hi, Mark. And yeah, just you know, Mark, you're doing a great job explaining things. And you know, as a superintendent, you know, we work in collaboration. We've sent kids to the safe schools, and we know what types of programs you run. So we have full faith in you. And as you said a couple times tonight, the students that are going to be coming here are different than the ones that are in the safe schools. And even the ones that go to the safe schools, it's an opportunity for them to be in a different environment. And when they come back to us, they are better for their time in those schools. So, you know, we know that the kids that are going to this facility, they have different needs, and they're going to be in a great spot. So when you talk about security, all the people in the audience, I just know that Mark puts his heart and soul, and you could see it and you could hear it today. He puts his heart and soul into his work. So I have full faith in him.
Thank you for that, Phil. And I didn't pay him for that. Yes, sir.
One thing, I don't know what you know of the old Joes, but Coach Pingator was the winningest coach. And is there going to be an homage about all the talent that ever came from that school?
Yep.
That's something as a St. Joe's grad and a Westchester resident that this man very justly deserved, because he brought kids that never thought they would get to college, and he used the basketball as a tool to enhance their dreams.
Yep.
And I think he would be very proud of this. So I hope that you do put him there somewhere.
I like your sweatshirt.
That's why I wore it.
So thanks for bringing that up. Legacy has been an ongoing discussion topic. That anytime somebody has heard that we're coming here, how are you going to honor the legacy? The words across the front, St. Joe's, will stay. The stained glass is going to stay. The red sign's going to stay. We did the same thing at Lexington. What we said is West40 at Lexington. And as if you know, you're an alum, so you know, as you walk in the door, to the right, there's a huge brick wall. It's bigger than that one. And we've already said that would be the perfect place for legacy work. And we've talked to people from IHM, and we've talked to people from St. Joe's. Some people have said, I've got old yearbooks, I've got an old jersey. And so we said, let's dedicate that wall as you first come in. It's the perfect legacy spot. And people mention Isaiah Thomas. You know, I've seen things too where people have described St. Joe's as a basketball powerhouse. That's right. And you know, it's this little kind of hidden there, but known, I think actually nationwide as a basketball. So we've decided that's the best place right as you come in through the reception area, and we'll have some for IHM and also some for St. Joe's. And I believe there are some alumni that have artifacts from when the buildings were closed, who've already, the Alumni Association's kind of kicking this around Facebook. And I love the idea that we can honor that. And we're doing exactly the same thing if you visit Lexington. There's some people who have history there, and we're finding ways to keep the plaques, to keep some of the pictures and things to honor the legacy. If I can, I know I'm way over time, but I want to tell one quick story about legacy. When we bought we were planning to buy the building, can you give me our mission statement, please? When we were about to buy the building, there it is. So this is our mission statement, and we're very proud of the fact that it doesn't sound like most mission statements. Most mission statements are great, but something I love about this is that people remember it. We're going to meet you where you are. We're going to be what you need. We're going to walk further with you and stand strong with you. So we're about to buy the property, and one of the St. Joe's brothers says, I wanted to show you our mission statement. He said, because we looked at yours, and yours is almost the same as ours. And the mission statement had to do with helping young people find their path and keeping kids off the street. That's a bad paraphrase, but it's very similar in nature. And the next time I told the story, the gentleman goes, Mark, you got it wrong. You got it wrong. This is the St. Joe's mission statement, but it was written 300 years ago in France by the Christian brothers. And he said, he started to tear up. He's like, our mission is being extended through the work that West40 wants to do with helping kids get on the right path and being successful adults. So, like, holy cow, talk about legacy, right? Like, this path started 300 years ago, and we're blessed to be able to try to take that the next step. But yes, you'll see that wall. You can help us design it if you'd like. Yeah.
If you have Governor Pritzker's ear.
Yep.
Our school districts need more of this locally in the school district.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm,
I have grandkids. These students are struggling.
Yep.
Struggling. Big time. At LT, Proviso.
Yep.
Yes. So we can't put them all in boarding schools.
Right.
And I commend you for capturing them at a young age, because you can mold them better.
Yep. So I hope everybody heard that. If you're interested, at another time, make sure you grab one of my cards, and we'll talk about our ALOP programs. We have resource people that we call advocates at LT, at Proviso. We're in all the high schools, and we're in half of the middle schools, and those people are social workers, interventionists, counselors. They don't have bell schedules. They have a caseload of about 30 students who are struggling to help them become successful, whatever that takes. And it's been interesting how organic it's been. We only started in Morton and Leiden, and now we're up to 150 of these employees from West40 that are in the public schools helping kids be successful. And next year we're hiring 25 more. We have districts are saying, come do this work, help us do this with kids, help kids be successful. And something I'm really proud of, I try not to brag too much, but I'm bragging on behalf of West40. Those 3,000 students that I talked about, some adult has labeled them as at risk. This child is at risk, you need to be in the West40 ALOP program. 95% of those kids are graduating. And it's because one significant adult loves them. And we're not afraid to use the word love. So it's similar to this. Yes, this is a very intensive kind of part of our model. But in every high school in West40, most of the middle schools, and we're starting in the elementary schools, we're showing up and loving them one kid at a time. And the results are, and we're not doing academic tutoring, we're just showing up and loving them. And the results are about 95% of those kids are graduating high school. So I totally agree with you. This is another version of what we believe to be good for kids. And this is a marginalized group that not many people are helping well. And so we're going to turn that around. Jamie.
Yeah, I know some people are jumping off Zoom and some people are leaving. So I just want one question that you had that I know that you want to address, and maybe we could finish the meeting with that. And then if there are additional questions, I have my business cards. I'm the Assistant Executive Director. Mark has his business cards. But she asked a question about communication throughout this whole process.
Great.
And I know that you have an idea about that. So I don't know if you wanted to share that with the group too.
Thank you, Jamie.
Of course.
I wanted to close with a question, like, how do you want to get the information? We've talked about setting up a web page. Heidi is holding, this is a printed version of our FAQ, but there's a QR code. So we're going to be running that FAQ throughout the summer. And so that may be helpful. If you would prefer, we might do an email subscription. You type in your email and we'll blast something out every week. Blogging, whatever makes sense to you, how you like to get your information. We're in-person people. So we're definitely doing this probably the middle of July and the middle of August. And then we'll go from there and see how we're meeting the needs to communicate.
So will you have any further town halls in the village of Westchester to open up to the community and the board? Or,
yeah. Well, we're going to do this format again, and I'm crossing my fingers. The next time we'll be on site at St. Joe's, and that'll be the middle of July. Another one in the middle of August. I've had a chance to meet a couple of trustees, which has been great. And I'll talk with the village president about whether it makes sense for me to have a special meeting just for them, or they can join us. They're welcome to join us. But the 15th, roughly the middle of July, the middle of August, we're hoping to do this same kind of format and do that at St. Joe's. So watch social media. Let us know. Heidi in the blue blazer is our director of communications. So let us know how you like to get information, and we'll do that as many ways as we can.
Will you share information with the Westchester newspaper that comes out weekly? I mean, everybody's not on social media or don't want to.
Yep, I'm right with you. I got it.
The mayor, yeah, more advance notice. The new mayor posted in our newspaper.
Yep.
I read it. I called my trustee and I said, hey, when's that meeting? Please let me know.
Mm-hmm.
It was like such short notice. Yeah.
And
can I address that communication question, or do you want to go first?
no, go ahead.
So from a communications perspective, the FAQ page that you have holding in your hand, a QR code, is going to go to an FAQ page. We're going to constantly update that as we have developments at St. Joe. That's your way of like stay up to date on what's going on in there. The other thing that we're going to do is Chris Coffey, who's in the back of the room, he's the one that's in charge of posting content in social media. So just follow us there. We'll take you to the page with any kind of updates there. We're also going to get this printed, right? So any updates and news that we have, we'll print it out, drop it off at the village office on Roosevelt Road and Manheim. And then the other way that you can get a hold of us is on our website, west40.org. There is a contact page. On the top, at the right, it says contact. Just fill out that form and just let us know what questions you might have, and then we'll do our best to respond to them.
Can we also check and see if connect with the newspaper?
Yes.
And as we publish them? Yep. Yep. Well, thank you for those ideas. I'm going to hang around for a bit. We have water and some snacks if you're hungry. It's getting past dinner time, but if you want to help yourself. And our business cards are there too.